you ready?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new series on the Weeb Club, a new Vindy and Nunmanji series.
Yes. Don't worry, this isn't going to be replacing the Sonic podcast, and I don't even see it interfering with how fast those come out realistically.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Sonic podcasts will second one will come out soon-ish, I think, compared to now. And then probably after that, they'll start coming out a little bit faster. But yeah, I definitely don't think this will interfere. And this is something I'm really excited about. But it's your idea, so you should probably explain it.
Yeah, so me and Vindy are going to be watching the Naruto anime. We're going to watch the entire thing, all of the filler arcs, the movies as well. We're not guaranteed to do Boruto because we didn't talk to each other about that. And I'm not even sure if I want to do that.
Yeah.
But, it is going to be all of Naruto Shippuden, Naruto movies, and then in the Shippuden movies.
Right, and we'll at the very least we will do the Boruto movie.
Yeah, we can do that for sure.
So even if we don't do the Boruto show, we'll do the movie since you know that came out before Boruto as an anime started. It was still
I would say
like a Naruto movie.
Yeah, it is attached more to Naruto, especially because the Boruto anime redoes that. So it really can't be attached to the Boruto anime at that point.
But yeah, so this is and funny thing about this for those listening, we haven't told anyone we're doing. Even Craftsdwarf doesn't know that like this is happening.
Yeah.
So if you feel like this came out of nowhere, it did, and that was intentional. But I'm really excited about this, and I definitely. Like, I know you all hear this and you're like, oh, this is going to come out, you know, it's going to take forever to come out. At least after this first bit we watched, which was 5 episodes, I think they'll come out pretty quickly, honestly.
Yeah, I could have kept watching more. Like, I watched the 5 episodes in the day, but then I stopped because I don't want to, like, be disgustingly ahead of the episode. So, like, you know.
Yeah, I don't think I ever want to watch past what we've recorded, but, like, I definitely finished what we were watching. I was like, I could watch another episode right now. Because I guess to, you know, kind of I was really enjoying it.
Yeah, so we, you know, as Vindy said, we watched the first 5 episodes, which is considered the prologue. You know, you could technically combine it with Land of Waves, but we didn't do that for the purposes of this episode because 1, we felt like we already had enough to say about the first 5, and 2, it'd be kind of unreasonable if we just like watched all 19 to 20 episodes till the end of Land of Waves. And then people knew about this, so they had to watch those 20, then plus a bunch of others if they want to like for the they would have to watch those 20, and then I don't know where tuning exams ends. They would have to watch that as well for the next episode, which is kind of unreasonable. So realistically, you just have to watch these extra 5, and then Land of Waves, and then you're good. If you do want to keep up with the podcast, not,
yeah, I mean,
oh, go ahead.
I was just say I definitely recommend people keep up with us because I think it'll make it more fun, and I'm sure there are some of y'all who have maybe you've read Naruto, maybe you saw it as a kid, haven't seen it since, maybe you haven't seen it in a long time and you want to rewatch it. Go ahead and watch with us. I think that it'll be fun. I mean, it's not like we're gonna do this in like a month, right? Like it'll take us a while to get through it all, but it should be semi-consistent that these are coming out.
My recommendation, if you don't want to watch all of the anime or feel like you just don't have the time, you could try watching at least the movies and the filler arcs specifically. Or the bare minimum, really, the movies if you haven't seen them. Because, yeah, if you've read it, it's not that big a deal to listen to discussion of the canon anime arcs.
Yeah, and so... I mean, we should probably determine this now because I haven't asked you, but I assume like
We can spoil
This
it.
is not something to listen to. Yeah,
Okay,
I was just saying, this is not something to listen to if you haven't. I'm glad you know exactly what I was going to ask. Like, if you haven't read or watched Naruto before, because we will go into spoilers. Because I definitely took notes down that were like, spoilery things that I was noticing.
Yeah, we're gonna be able to spoil the
episodes.
entire series in any episode. That's what I would prefer. So
yeah, I agree. So yeah, this is definitely something where it's more like people who really like the Naruto manga and have some history with the anime. I mean, I know you've seen it all before, and I've seen part 1. Watching it from the lens of people who like Naruto, not as like a first time watching, so it will be like full spoilers. Just as like a get that out of the way now. So if you haven't seen Naruto, haven't read it, don't want to be spoiled, this is not the podcast for you.
The only
this
thing
is much more.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
I would
off.
say this is much more analyzing. I feel like the anime for what it does, and there will be some Naruto analysis just naturally as we talk about what we watched.
The only thing I will like guarantee that I'm not gonna just spoil the fuck out of is Boruto. Like I might reference some things that I noticed, like just watching part 1, in comparison to Boruto, but I'm not gonna like overly spoil Boruto. It's gonna be like the type of thing you would already know, really, from even without watching it.
Right, and that makes sense because that is like a separate thing, and also I haven't read Boruto yet, so. But yeah, so what did you think of these first 5 episodes?
I thought they were really good. The beginning of the very start of Naruto is still really good. Like it literally is probably like it's so much more like better of a representation of the series than I think a lot of people would ever notice. Because like what you like to say that you've been saying since you've been reading Naruto is how Naruto connects with Haruka, and Haruka like understands Naruto and where he's coming from, and that's like part of like it. Like not only is Naruto being understood for the first time, part of why he can keep going, but it's also just kind of like this general idea that Naruto eventually learns to do himself, and is what he does with his enemies and other people he meets and stuff. So it's just kind of like, in that sense, it's really good. And then like there's also like I would say there's like so many other aspects there that like like it has the everyone hates Naruto, so it's it kind of introducing the cycle of hatred, and it kind of and like I really like how even though Naruto and Haruka like Naruto as he is right now and Haruka as he is right now are very different people overall, Haruka still could see in his past just how much he was like Naruto and uses that to connect to him and recognize what he wants. Like he also wants that sense of love and to not be lonely anymore,
Yeah, I also like what I realized that it works really well, and I don't know if it like is immediately chapter 2 in the manga. I'm sure it is, but then I love how like that's part 1, and then immediately the next episode is Naruto gets acknowledged by someone else who has a similar conflict, right? Where with Naruto, right, it's that he notices in people's eyes that they don't see him for who he is. They see him as it takes him a little bit to realize, but they see him as the nine-tailed beast, right? And Konohamaru has a similar thing where people don't see him as Konohamaru, they see him as the third Hokage's grandson. And so then they kind of relate off of like both of them want to be acknowledged by people, and so they have like a similar thing where both of them want to become Hokage so that they can be acknowledged. And so then Naruto gets someone else kind of on his side. So the first 2 episodes are like Naruto using these similar experiences with people to connect with them and form these relationships.
And like one thing I was like thinking about a lot was just like this like I know there was this like Boruto interview where it was kind of interesting how I think Ikemoto decided to describe what Naruto was about compared to Boruto. And I definitely see why he described it that way. He basically said that like Naruto is about like hold on, let me make sure I'm getting the exact wording. He says Naruto focused on loneliness and how to overcome it, and I would definitely say like the beginning portion of Naruto's story is like super heavily that before it like really clearly expands outward, which I thought was really interesting.
Right.
I also think that like Konohamaru is interesting in some ways because he's like he has this conflict of like not wanting the inheritance of like of his of the third Hokage. Like he doesn't want to just be the third Hokage's grandson, and that's like what Boruto has going on. Like
Right.
he like the main theme of Boruto, based on what Ikimoto said, or like the main focus of it was whatchamacallit, to shake off one's family inheritance. So I thought it was like kind of interesting because I never really thought about like Konohamaru being similar to how Boruto is in some ways. I don't know if it'll change things when I start watching Boruto more again, because it wasn't something
Right.
I realized at the time.
Especially considering Konohamaru is Boruto's teacher.
Yes,
you
sensei,
know? Like,
yeah.
he's the leader of the cell. So it's there's like interesting stuff there that's really cool. To talk a little bit more, because I guess I do want to say this just to show how much I feel like I'll have to say every time. I normally, when I watch things for the Weeb Club, don't take notes at all, right? Like, I just keep it in my head and bring up what I think. In the first episode, I was watching and I was like, I have so much to say, I need to start taking notes.
Yeah, I feel like we could like discuss it like I almost feel like we already discussed it like episode by episode without like just staying on one episode for a really long time, because I'm still not done with what I want to say about episode 1.
Oh, I agree. I was only gonna go through my episode 1 notes really, but I don't know if you got this, because I definitely thought Naruto, and I think all the episodes you've seen, the anime more so than the manga, and I think part of it's just stretching out chapters to be a full episode, and just having more time to focus on some of these things. It almost feels like there's more of like the kind of slice of life comedy elements in these early episodes. Like there's a lot more time that's kind of focused with Naruto and how the people around him see him, and I feel like the comedy is a lot more
prominent.
Yeah, prominent in what we've seen, and it feels like it's more like a part of it than I would say, because like I wouldn't describe Naruto as a comedy. I think like it has some funny moments, but I would say that overall the series isn't really a comedy. But I definitely feel like these first 5 episodes were pretty like comedic in tone, a lot of the time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do think it gives Naruto's early personality a kind of different, like it just comes off differently, I would say. Like it is still like I don't want to say it's like super super different, but it like that aspect of his kind of prankster jokey type thing shines through more, I guess I would say, in the earlier parts of the story because of that. And like I really love hearing Naruto's voice. Like it makes me happy to hear him like when he's happy about things, like
right.
when Iruka like recognizes him and stuff. And like I don't know, I just really like hearing Naruto, especially because it's not a Naruto that I often hear again, because it's still like the like bratty-ish Naruto who is the loudmouth and all these things. And like whenever I revisit Naruto, it's usually not this early, at least not for a long a long time. So
yeah,
I really like hearing him right now.
I agree. Not even just hearing it, but as a whole, the character, it's funny watching. Even I noticed it in like the Bell episodes where it's like he is so much different at the very start of the series than even he becomes like by Land of Waves, really, right? And like through the conflict he has in that arc, where like this early on Naruto is so like different from him the rest of the series that it's like,
yeah,
part of me was like, I did have this moment of being like, oh yeah, this is what Naruto's like at the start of the series. Like he is just kind of a fucking like a brat.
And like one thing that he did in like the Bell test was just like Kakashi points out that he really just like immediately came at him with the intent to kill, which even like after Land of Waves, Naruto wouldn't really do that.
Right. Yeah, and I mean he even threatens to kill what's his name? The guy from the first episode. Yeah. And so yeah, there is like this level of like he is very different and is like threatening to do things and stuff that he doesn't normally do.
Yeah, I mean I think it's like a lot in part because he's like that kind of thing where where the kids of Naruto are so excited to be like ninja and do all these things, but of course they don't like, they don't realize that it's not a game yet. And Land of Waves was that for Naruto, but like since he hasn't been there yet, he's still acting the way he does, and it's like times 10 just based on how Naruto as a character already is with his prankster side. So it's just like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good, and I forgot how much fun early Naruto is when it's not super like, when it's not really getting into the like the meat and bones of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it also makes me excited for, I think, some of the early, especially filler arcs, right? Because, I mean, I know we won't really have a filler arc until, like, through the Chunin exams is what it looks like. But I am excited to get to them eventually because it's, like, the series, I think, does some of the slice-of-life comedy stuff well. And some of, like, the not super serious stuff. And, like, one episode I remember watching as a kid that, like, I loved that, like, it pops in my head every once in a while, and like as a kid, it didn't even seem as like this just isn't an episode. It was the episode where they're trying to figure out what's under Kakashi's mask.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's funny. Yeah.
And so like I'm excited to get to episodes like that where it's kind of these more fun episodes of everyone just kind of like living because I am so used to Naruto being what the manga is because I haven't seen it in so long that kind of this way to take the series, especially early, is different.
I also, when I was watching the episode, I was like super keeping like, well, with these episodes in general, I was super keeping in mind like the very end of Naruto where like Sasuke's the one making the observation that Naruto was like this amazing person who was just like like in his eyes you could even say that Naruto was like kind of talented and like good at things and always like getting better. And it's like I definitely see that in these episodes because it's just like even though Naruto doesn't see that and like he's already doing these amazing things like learning the shadow clone jutsu. Episode 3 has Naruto ambushing Sasuke and coming out on top basically.
Right,
he beat
like
up Minazuki. Yeah. And even though his like plan against Kakashi in the bell test failed, Sasuke was still impressed. Like Sasuke's like still noticing these things, and it's just like interesting to really keep in mind that like Naruto always had like ability, and I definitely think the framing in which people use for Naruto or like Naruto is kind of just wrong, like even from the start, because it's just like that whole thing that comes up later about like like the talented and the losers, like the way I viewed that was just like it's basically saying that like talented people have an easier time finding and recognizing their talent, whereas the losers, it's not that they don't have a talent and it's not that their talent couldn't be better than the talented, it's just that like because their circumstances it's a lot harder to find their talent and they almost risk not ever finding anything because in the first episode Naruto, if Iruka didn't accept him, he would have just like I don't know, I mean went crazy. I don't know what would have happened if Iruka didn't accept him, but like he definitely wouldn't have achieved his dreams or anything. So it's just like it's kind of, and like I even know that like later on in the tuning exams they say that like they literally say in words that everyone has a talent. So it's just not
right.
It's not this kind of way that people look at it, especially when they think that like Naruto was supposed to be a character who didn't have a talent, was just kind of like this underdog. Because like even in like the first episode, Iruka compliments Naruto and says that he's like always trying and things like that, and that in his own way he's exceptional and things like that.
Yeah, even like when he fails, doing the transformation. Mizuki even says like or he's like, why can't we pass him? And he mentions good points that Naruto has even at that point. Like I think he says that he's well coordinated and he has a lot of energy or something like that. Like even in the academy, even as we find out like the lowest graded student, Naruto still had things that make him a good ninja or give him the possibility to be a good ninja.
I also forgot that it's like the beginning of the episode, Naruto's like outpacing these actual shinobi and hides from them. And Iruka does find them because Iruka knows him, but like he's still outpaced and escaped those other shinobi. So
Right.
it's like clear that he has these things to him that he can't recognize, but because he's lonely and he doesn't have anyone to like guide him, he doesn't see it. But like,
Right. And it's not until he has people guiding him and helping him that he's able to not only recognize what he's good at, but like, even if you look forward, he didn't even realize, and other people didn't realize, right? Because he had so much chakra, like nobody realized that his chakra control was terrible until Jiraiya did, right? And so he needed these people to help guide him and help him notice his mistakes and also notice where he's good, but not that he, didn't have any positive qualities beforehand. It was just he didn't have people around him.
Mm-hmm. And like in general, I just like super think that viewpoint is like a lot better than what people think, or like people think Naruto was doing or think it should be. Like I would definitely say that's like a lot more realistic, that like, yeah, everybody like has a talent and some people will just like find it faster and seem more talented.
Yeah.
But
I think that's even like almost a core part of the like the entire class, where all of them have their like individual jutsus that only they use, which is really fun and cool, and I think is a part of what makes people really like the Chunin exams, is because you have all these different characters with their own unique abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, and I mean, it's not like I didn't know this before, but one thing I loved in episode 1 was I fucking love the part where it's like like the idea that there was a rule in the village that everyone knew except Naruto. Like every single person in the village except him knew that, and even that just like goes to show how alone he is, right? That like one of the laws of the village, he's like unable to even know. Which just then, like, to even make that happen, it comes down to like, okay, how differently was he treated, and how much of an outsider would he have had to have been treated for something like that to even just logistically be possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like he just isn't even a part of the village in like a really sad way.
I also think it's just like, it is interesting to see how like when Naruto leaves the village, all the shinobi are like super ready to just like kill him. Like it's clear that they're just like immediately assuming the worst of him, and it really paints a picture of how things were for him beforehand.
Yeah, it's a good point. They're really just like, yeah, it's the fox demon, we'll kill him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no.
I also do really like that, like, the people who hate him specifically call him the fox demon, whereas, Iruka, who doesn't and recognizes that he's different, doesn't do that.
Iruka doesn't do it. You know who else doesn't do it? Is the third Hokage, actually.
Yeah.
Who I'm really liking.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just I'm really liking him in the anime because I feel like he's been doing like a lot of like really good, like I feel like he's had a lot more prominence, right? And been like like there's been a lot of him he's been watching Naruto for a lot of it, and making comments and talking to Iruka, and like been this driving force behind the scenes for Naruto's success that I really liked.
Yeah, like I do think he's doing the most that he realistically thinks he can, because like like as we know later on, Danzo was just kind of like messing things up to the point where like the third Hokage couldn't necessarily be like outright openly supportive, and kind of like like the best he could do was not put Naruto in jail, but you couldn't not leave him just like alone all the time. But like even in spite of like the third Hokage kind of being like messing up in a lot of ways, he is clearly still trying and does like care and does kind of see more to Naruto than other people see.
Yeah, I agree. It's really Pog that because I feel like, and some of this, I don't want to say this isn't in the manga, right? Because I know a lot of this is, But it's one of those things where, I think that some of like the little stuff in a manga you can just like kind of skip over or forget because, something that is like a panel or 2 panels in a manga could be stretched into a 3-minute conversation in an anime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then, like, it helps you kind of remember some of this stuff. And, I mean, that's not to say there is a bunch of stuff added, even in what we watched, I just know that there's a bunch of things that were added in.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I felt like episode 2 had a lot extra. But I think is good, because I think a lot of it was really nice and helped, I guess, like, it helped further a lot of the ideas and stuff that you see later on.
Do you have anything else to say about episode 1 specifically, or?
I think it was in episode 1. I fucking love how, the third Hokage, even like this early on, is talking about how, Kurama was put inside Naruto with the goal of Naruto being a hero, right?
I feel like that was episode 2.
Oh, was that episode 2? Okay, then never. I don't remember what episode it was.
It's fine. You can go ahead.
Well, I like that, like, I like that there were a couple ideas that we saw this early on that, like, are almost, like, said here and then not even brought up again until way, way later. And I love that this was one of them where, the fourth Hokage literally meant for Naruto to become, like, a hero in the village, right? And become someone that everybody, could, like...
Acknowledge, yeah.
Acknowledge and see what he is doing for them by housing Kurama inside him and being a Jinchuriki. And instead, he was shunned for it, which is, like, sad. But then we know that it eventually allowed Naruto to grow and become a hero to the village. So it's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. I also think that it's like, I feel like because of something like that, I almost feel like on some level Kishimoto had in mind that the fourth was just going to be Naruto's dad.
I definitely think so. I mean, I guess I haven't seen if he said anything to the contrary, but I definitely get the impression from the way the series is from the very beginning that the fourth was always Naruto.
I mean, there's some details that like Kishimoto kind of did in the beginning where he wasn't sure where he was going to take them, but I would think at least he knew Minato was going to be his dad. He might not have had a name, I don't know, but I also do think it is like one thing that is clearly different is how Minato versus the Nine Tails is depicted. Because, it's that, like, I don't think there's any point in the manga where they, like, fully show that, where he's like, on top of Gamabunta.
Yeah, that was cool. I liked seeing that. Like,
I thought it was cool, but, it is different, so it is interesting to see how that was originally shown. I also kind of like how, because of that, it's kind of like already setting up this connection between the fourth Hokage and Jiraiya. I know Jiraiya probably does explicitly say that he knew the fourth, but it is cool that it's the exact same Toad that Jiraiya will have later.
Right, and then it also becomes the same Toad that Naruto calls out. Not even too far from where we are now. Which is also great because it becomes a thing where, then we see Naruto call out Gamabunta in the Chunin exam. It's like, oh, like if you're paying attention, it's like, oh my God, that's the same thing that the fourth Hokage used, which helps further that like there is something between them. But yeah, I don't think I have any more to say for episode 1.
All right. So like in episode 2, I love the way it starts with Naruto. He's still that bratty, like, prankster type person. So he's trying to make his whatchamacallit, his license or whatever, his ninja registration picture, like this over the top expression with his face all painted.
Yeah, and I love that when he like gets asked about it, he like can't even put it because like he can't. I just loved hearing Naruto try to explain it. Where they're like, okay, why did you do this? He's like, cause like, come on. Like he couldn't even put it into words. I thought it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good to him, but like, I don't know. You can't even. Yeah, you can't even explain it. It was sad though that he's basically told to change it. I would hope that went through. I don't even remember if that actually went through as his picture. I would think not, but
no, they made him change it.
I mean, I know they said like they were arguing about changing it, but like I don't know if like the third Hokage like possibly just let it go through, especially because we don't see him just take another picture. Like Konohamaru interrupts everything, and like I think they just kind of like leave. But who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, but it would be fun. That would be a really funny joke for them to use way later. But I'm sure you would remember if they did, where like you see in like the last, like in like the last arcs after everything goes, where he's like has to become a Chunin and a Jonin and stuff. He still has that original picture. Would just be so funny.
I really like that the third Hokage is like so understanding of Naruto just hitting Konohamaru when he like accuses like he trips and he accuses Naruto and Naruto just hits him, and like the third doesn't even like, he's not even upset about it. Like you clearly see he understands.
Yeah, and I love the way that works, where it's like nobody else is gonna hit him. And even Naruto almost stops, and then he sets him off. He says something, and Naruto's like, fuck you, bitch. Just punches the shit out of him. It was great. Oh, I don't know if you loved it, but there was this fucking one line in the episode where Naruto's talking about what he went through to Konohamaru. And he basically says, like, he had to go through all of this pain and all of this suffering just to get one person to acknowledge him. And that shit was fucking great. I fucking loved that line. Because it like almost puts into perspective like the way he sees it, where it's like he's going through all of this for the purpose of getting people to acknowledge him and to pay attention to him. And I think that that's like really sick.
Yeah. I really like that because it's just like, and I feel like it really emphasizes that it's like more important for Naruto to work to get other people by his side and like help, and those other people will help make him stronger, and that's kind of like the real thing he has to strive and work on, and that's like more important to him than like anything else really. And I feel like we have to like kind of keep mentioning it too, where it's just kind of like Naruto is like, he's clearly saying like advocating for more than just like working hard there. Like it's not just like physically working hard and getting like physically stronger and stuff.
Right.
Like his no shortcuts kind of thing is just him like recognizing that he needs to confront anything that gets in the way of his dream. Whereas it's like other people, they might succumb to being like a ninja tool or just like go ahead and kill people. Whereas Naruto, that no shortcut thing is like, he has to fight Sasuke and he has to win him over to his side, or he can't become Hokage. Or he, instead of killing pain, he has to understand pain and understand how to make the world better. Like it's so clearly like focused on that it's just kind of like a really bad reading to look at shortcuts, like no shortcuts and things like that as a hard work kind of message. I mean, it is
right,
quote unquote hard work in a way that it's like, yeah, he is learning and getting better, but it's not this kind of hard work that people view it as. They view it as like a Lee type way where he's just training. It's not really that.
Yeah, I think there's even there's like a really great like kind of duality there where you have Abisu, who's only recognizing Konohamaru as the third Hokage's grandson, and keeps telling him, if you stick with me and you do what I say, I have shortcuts to help you become the Hokage, right? And that's like this big thing he keeps saying is, I know these jutsu, I know these ways that will fast track you to being the Hokage. And then you have Naruto, who is the person who recognizes him for who he is as a person and says, there is no shortcut. If you want people to acknowledge you, you have to earn it.
Yeah, like, Ibisu could make Konohamaru as strong as he wants and teach him all these things, but ultimately, Ibisu still just sees him as the third grandson, so if even he's just seeing him this way and not, like, recognizing him on his, like, own merits, then Konohamaru isn't going to get this recognition and acknowledgement to actually be Hokage.
You know what it actually reminds me of, even this early on? Is when Itachi tells Naruto,
I
way
think about
later
that
on,
line a lot.
Where it's, it's not that the one who becomes Hokage is then acknowledged by everyone, but it's that the person who is acknowledged by everyone becomes Hokage. And you even see that somewhat in Naruto's, in his mentality here, even if I think he hasn't fully recognized it yet and understands that idea yet. Part of the way he's acting is that, like, he needs people to acknowledge him. And obviously, by becoming Hokage and the path to becoming Hokage, people will acknowledge him, but he needs people to acknowledge him even just as he is before he could even hope to make it there, right? With Iruka and Konohamaru, and then even, later some of the stuff with Team 7 that we saw is, like, kind of going into that. So it's really great. Also, did you think it was really funny in this episode, like in episode 2, how I couldn't get it out of my head. It was so funny how you would have character designs that were very clearly like Naruto character designs and were made by Kishimoto and had like an aesthetic to them, and then ones that were like made just for there was like the girl with the ponytail and the bookshop owner that hit Naruto.
Yeah,
they
I noticed
honestly
that.
just did not fit with the series at all.
I feel like the ponytail lady was like okay enough, but like the expression that one bookshop owner guy makes and how he's drawn is like very different.
And then I think it was also really apparent for me with like the other kids that like aren't shown at all because like the whole graduating class is shown, and like it kind of shows like a scene where there's a lot of them and then the characters as well, and the characters that I feel like were made for the anime was like so clearly like these are not in line with the other characters. Like it's very clear who the characters that are like actual people. Not in like a bad way. It made me laugh looking at it. Do you have anything else to say about episode 2?
I guess I just like also really liked in this episode Naruto's like general creativity. Like the sexy jutsu didn't work on Ibisu, so he just used his shadow clones plus sexy jutsu to win. And I think that's something that Naruto consistently does throughout the series that I really like. And it's just like super cool to see in general. Yeah. We can move on to episode 3.
All right. I gotta figure out something because I don't know what this means, but I wrote something down in my notes. But the first thing is, I love how good a job this episode does, even at the beginning, of showing the character relationships between a lot of different characters. Even though I think some of it was a little off in certain ways, just from what we find out way later. I thought it did a pretty good job of from the beginning showing Sakura and Ino's character and like how they are, and showing some of Naruto's relationship with some of his classmates and some of their relationships with each other. The only one that I thought was a little weird was like it was kind of weird that like Ino was like not wanting to be in a group with Shikamaru, even though we know from way later on that obviously.
I mean, I don't think that's too weird, even though, like, they are Ino Shikasho. Just because, like, I think does, like, have a personality to where, like, she could, like, kind of not want to be a part of that, at least early on, especially when she just kind of, like, she obviously wants to be with Sasuke, so it's just kind of, like, being stuck with those two, just because she's like, I guess, so distracted by loving Sasuke. They just seem kind of lame, especially when Shikamaru bashes Sasuke, right. Kinda. So it made sense to me.
No, I mean, so I don't think it was like terrible. It just is one of those things where it's like going back, it's like, especially when you consider that, like, as Ino Shikasho, they'd been trained together. And like I could see like, you know, being like a whatever, like they're like 12, right?
Yeah, they're 12. They're 12.
They're 12. You could definitely see there being like a, you know, they do want to, I guess, break outside of that, you know, oh, this is what my parents want, and I don't want that. But it was something where it's like, you know, and I don't even think it's a problem with the show because clearly, you know, that hadn't, like, the full extent of Inoshikacho hadn't been written yet, you know. But it was something where I was like, oh yeah, okay, like that's kind of not fully, I think, you know, in line with how the rest of the series is. But not. I mean, I don't think it was anything like super bad. It was just like, yeah, you know, this probably isn't the best. But besides that, I thought it was like really fun seeing a lot of them do more early and like seeing their characters be who they like are in a sense.
And I do like that, like, even this early on, even though Shikamaru's not like friends with Naruto, he's still kind of like just like interacts with him a little bit. Like he's not completely like unopen to like Naruto, I guess. Like he's not completely avoiding and completely dismissing him as like a person. Like he probably just thinks he's like kind of silly, but he's just like, you know, you can definitely see why they eventually grow closer later, and why Shikamaru is one of the people who's faster to like just kind of see him for who he is.
Yeah, I mean, there's even like, you know, I mean, he's the only person who on his own chooses to come up and approach Naruto, right? Like obviously, you know, Sakura and Ino do it, but that's just to get him to move because they want to sit next to Sasuke. Which I thought was already funny that Naruto and Sasuke were sitting next to each other.
Oh, I was gonna mention that too. Like, they're just casually sitting next to each other. It does seem like something they would do. Like, even though they're not even on the same team yet, and they're not even like having this kind of general idea that they're friends, I feel like I could just see them just like Naruto just kind of sitting there. I could super see that. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, that's fucking great. That just, you know, they would just go sit next to each other. That's what they do. It was so good. I was so into it. I forgot how much I love Inner Sakura and how funny it is. Like, I don't think every joke with it is like super hysterical, but I think a lot of the jokes with it are like actually pretty good and fun.
Yeah.
As well.
I do think Inner Sakura is good in the sense that it's just like, like I like that it's there and kind of showing this other side of Sakura that she isn't expressing, but like later on it's obviously not a thing anymore, which makes sense given that she's just more open with like, you know, like that one Inner Sakura part where she's like fully supportive of Naruto's prank, but she obviously doesn't say that. Like, way later, she could just be supportive of him without having to have Inner Sakura, whereas there, she obviously would have that other side to her.
Right, I think that's almost something that happens, like, at Time Skip, where you even see from the beginning of Time Skip, like, there's a little bit of Inner Sakura at the beginning, but she's much more comfortable being herself after everything she kind of goes through in part one. And I think that's, like, that's what, like, Inner Sakura, you know, again, to show, you know, Sakura's a good character, and like part of her character arc is that, you know, she's very much hiding who she is and these parts of herself.
I mean, yeah, she definitely like has this very strong sense of insecurity about certain things, so it makes sense then, why she would, you know, need that Inner Sakura.
And the way she's obsessed with Sasuke is such like a childish thing that like it makes sense that even like as a kid would, she's, you know, hiding how she feels about like everything, and I do love the prank they play on Kakashi. I know that's episode 4, but just because everyone's into it, like even Sasuke, who's pretending like he's not, is into it.
Yeah,
and that's why I love seeing Team 7 get together, because I forgot they're all so silly. Like all 4 of them. Like even though Sasuke tries to hide it because, you know, he sees it, as we know, like as a sign of weakness, right? And doesn't want to be weak and wants to be strong. He likes it secretly.
Yeah.
You know?
Like he more than anyone like really understands what Naruto's doing.
Yeah, and like on a certain level, you know, they're all kind of glad that they're on a team with each other, right? Like we know that Naruto and Sasuke say they aren't, but they're glad to be on a team with each other. Naruto's glad to be on a team with Sakura. And I do like seeing their interactions early because you do kind of see them not even start at odds, but start kind of, you know, kind of at odds, but then slowly start to, you know, realize that they are kind of like a perfect team, right?
I would even say that, like,
great.
Early on, Sasuke, you know, he is kind of, like, he is appreciative of Sakura, kind of, sort of, like, especially during the bell test. Like, you know, he is, like, asking if she's, like, okay, and kind of, you know, does see that she's, like, going over to him. Like, he does, like, low-key see it, even though he can't really express that.
Right.
At least until the Chunin exams.
And there is like a lot of, you know, Sasuke loves to call them dumb or whatever, but like he's making faces and reacting, especially to a lot of the stuff during the bell test. He's like making silly faces and reacting to what they're doing, right? Because like he is like on some level having fun with them, and you know, he does like them, and it's really good, like from all of them.
I mean, I also, you know, I don't know if this is skipping ahead a little too much, but I really like when Naruto obviously pretends to be Sasuke, and you know, he's talking to Sakura. He's kind of trying to see how she feels about him, and you know, eventually when Sasuke, like the real Sasuke, comes, Sasuke just like and she's like talking like shit about Naruto, and she brings up him not having parents and him being lonely. Like Sasuke like lays into her, like he's so upset because, you know, he sees that Naruto also has these similar circumstances and he knows how loneliness feels. So, you know, he tells her that being told, I forget, like I think his line was something like, you know, the pain of loneliness is way worse than being told off by parents or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And it was just like such like king shit from Sasuke. I love that moment.
I agree. It's really fucking good.
And like again, it's like super. Like it is a lot that kind of. I definitely can see how the concept of Naruto from the beginning was really like focusing hard on this, like specifically this loneliness aspect.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And there was a lot of like great stuff in it. I even think it's interesting how like for a majority of the episode, Team 7 aren't actually together, right? Like we see what I think they're Team 8, but Shikacho team, right? Like they're all getting lunch together and they're doing things together. And Team 7 isn't together at all that episode, right? To the point where like you would almost assume that any other team except Team 7 would probably have passed Kakashi's test, or any other teams we know. But that's getting ahead of myself. I also liked the little thing it showed where like Sakura was thinking like maybe I should ask Sasuke if he wants to get lunch since we're in the same group. And then Naruto says the exact same thing to her and she's like, no, why would I do that?
Yeah. I love the way the anime draws his face. Like they drew his face like so like stupidly, but it's just like it's so funny, like the expression that he's making there. I really like it.
I love Naruto's expressions in this shit. They're great. Like Kid Naruto's expressions are fucking perfect. He's like he's like simultaneously like a little shit, but also like just a sweet boy. I love it. It's so good. Did you find the joke? Oh my god. It was just like a line, but it's so funny. Where there's actually a lot of like this little thing in this episode that I thought was really interesting, but like the joke where so Sakura thinks it and then it happens, but she's like thinking of like her like perfect whatever.
Yeah.
The fucking line where he's like, yo, big forehead, I want to kiss it. And she goes, that's what its service area is for. Is so fucking funny. I can't handle it.
Yeah. And like, I like that Naruto's also that stupid kid who thinks that's a good line to say to somebody. So he says that, like, that thing that Sakura wants to hear.
Right. Well, yeah, that was the other part of it, is that like what Sakura wanted to hear is what only Naruto would think to say.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, yeah, like, you know, these episodes really do kind of show that in some ways Sakura is this, like, a similar type of childishness to Naruto. Like, she, you know, she's also into that prank and thinks it's, like, really good. And she also thinks of the forehead thing. Yeah, it's really good. It's funny. One thing I wanted to bring out was just, like, kind of how, you know, Sasuke telling off Sakura is part of like what helps her like grow in some ways, because you know, not only is it the first instance where she thinks maybe she should be nicer to Naruto, but I would also say what Sasuke does to her there is kind of give her a little piece of what it's like to be lonely when, you know, obviously someone she really loves rejects her in that way. You know, like, even though the series does it's not trying to imply that like Sakura has it as bad as those other two, but she does have these opportunities to see part of what it's like. And I do think it probably ties into way later where it's like, because she had these like little like this kind of experience with being lonely because of, like, of what things that Sasuke has done. She also has this way of seeing what the like what those two what those two are going through is way worse, and it's probably part of why she leaves Sasuke to Naruto.
Yeah, like she almost has the understanding that like she can't understand it, right? Whereas like only Naruto and Sasuke can understand each other. I think Sakura eventually understands like she'll never be able to fully grasp what they go through, and so she doesn't try to. And I love that even after Sasuke says that, not even completely because of what Sasuke said to try to get back in his good graces because he's not there, you know, she tries to be nice to Naruto because she does stop for a second and kind of think like, oh, Naruto kind of has been through a lot. Maybe I shouldn't just be an asshole to him all the time.
Yeah, it's really good. What were you gonna say?
I also like that the entire episode, Naruto is shitting his brains out because he lives alone. He doesn't have anyone. So he doesn't think to check the expiration date on the milk. He's a 12-year-old boy, right? He's just going to eat it because it's there and eat his ramen. And, you know, he ends up, having food poisoning all day. Which I also loved. That there was like an aspect of it where at the beginning he's eating his cup noodles and like, he's happy to be eating cup noodles because like to him, like that's a special occasion food, you know, like, and like cup noodles are like $1, right? But for him to do cup noodles, like, oh, it's a special occasion, so I'm gonna eat my favorite cup noodles, which is like sad.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably just like eating like actual dog shit the most of the other times. I guess again, I kind of want to bring up how, like, you know, it is impressive that Naruto got one over on Sasuke, and he also, like, at the end of the episode where Sasuke confronts him before like Naruto has to shit, and he like summons all those clones. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of clear in a sense that Naruto could probably put up a little bit of a fight there, and it's like kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is good. Also, I gotta mention at some point before I forget, and I mean I knew this, but like, God, the music in Naruto is so good. And they even use it well. Like, there was like a really good joke when Konohamaru first tried to get the third Hokage, where like he shows up, right, and it does like the Pog music starts to play, and then he trips and it just immediately cuts out. And I love good uses of the music like that, where like you play a song that like makes you think a certain thing is coming, and then something happens, you just cut it immediately because like it was all for the purpose of the joke. I think is really fun.
Yeah, I really find, you know, the music and the voices like super nostalgic to hear again. I also didn't know, like, there's this one specific theme that stood out to me that I didn't know played that early, which is like the congratulations theme.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you would know what I was talking about, but yeah.
I mean, I've seen part 1 of Naruto's anime before, so
Yeah, I know, but like I wouldn't really be able to tell like how well you would remember it.
Do you want to do the if you're done with episode 3? Do you want to do the 2 bell test episodes as one, since it was like a 2-parter essentially?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. But
Okay.
I guess, another thing I just wanted to bring up about Sakura real quick was just like it is interesting how, at least in these like very early episodes, I would say she kind of like has like a self-centered-ish mindset, where, she thinks that Naruto's like getting in her way on purpose and like has it out for her, which is kind of like funny. So, and like I think it is like this kind of contrast with Naruto and Sasuke, where, I mean, I'm sure like Naruto and Sasuke are kind of self-centered in their own ways, but it's also because because they've been lonely. I would say they probably think of other people more than Sakura would think too, at least at this moment.
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny because Sakura keeps saying that Naruto is doing all these selfish things, right? Like, oh, he's so selfish, he's so selfish. When, like, in reality, she's the selfish one, and she's only thinking about herself, right? She's only, Kakashi even mentions it in the bell test. It's like, Sakura only looks at Sasuke, but doesn't even know where he is, and ignores Naruto when she's right in front of him. Like, she's actually the real selfish one. Which I thought was cool.
But yeah, let's move on to the bell test. Was it the bell test? It was the bell test episode where Kakashi introduced himself, right?
Yeah, so the episode starts with him showing up because I think the episode 3 ends just with Naruto shitting his brains out.
Yeah.
And so I DM'd you about this because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't wait till we recorded it because it blew my mind. But like, the first thing Kakashi says to them is that his first impression is that he hates them. But like, then it goes through this whole thing where even like later on he's like, maybe I'm kind of starting to like you guys. But then we know like by the end, right, when they fight Kaguya and he's just watching, the final thing is that he loves them, Like you almost get like this full thing of Kakashi doesn't really like him at first and is constantly insulting him and doesn't think, they have what it takes to be ninjas. And then by the end, they're the people he, at this point, probably cares about the most that are left, which is, like, so good and so awesome.
I also just, like, really like, in general, just seeing, like everyone's answers to his questions, like, their likes and dislikes. Because, like, it is also kind of funny, in a sense, that, like, I just thought of this now, where, like, they hear Kakashi say, like, what he said, to where it's, like, basically, like, they don't actually know anything about him based on that. But then they also kind of do that, in a sense. Like, Naruto things just being like, I love ramen. I hate the 3 minutes you have to wait for it.
That was the funniest answer I've ever heard in my life.
And then...
Oh, it's so good.
And then Sakura just, hinting at she likes Sasuke by looking at him. And then saying that she hates Naruto. Like, their answers are also just kind of these things where it's like, it's not really telling you that much.
Yeah. And I love the way she, like, won't say Sasuke. She just, like, looks at him and makes noises. And then she does, like, literally, like, a Weeb Club moment. She's like, but my dislikes are Naruto. And Naruto goes, what? It's so funny. And then Sasuke just being an overly, like, insane edgelord I love. Like, just being so, like, cringy about it. Which I feel like it's intentional, right? Like, I feel like it's supposed to be, like, kind of intentionally a little cringe that Sasuke is just, like, so, edgy about it, right? And then Sakura's like, oh, that's so cool. And it's like, all right, like, this fucking guy.
Yeah, like, I mean, I do think it, like, definitely, like, the series itself definitely calls attention to it a lot. Like, this just general contrast between, like, him saying all these things and, having these moments where he lets his guard down and is kind of, like, reacting. And also, like, Naruto makes a joke of, like both Naruto and Sakura, like, look at him and is like, damn, that's intense. Like, like they're all like surprised about it. It's like I feel like it's definitely kind of supposed to be kind of funny, like that he's just like so overly intense, and like I like that Naruto's like, I hope that guy he wants to kill isn't me.
I wrote that down. That was so funny. Because Naruto doesn't really know what's going on. It's just the fact that he's like, oh my god. I hope. God, I fucking loved. I like just seeing like early Naruto, like very early series Naruto is so almost refreshing. It makes me remember just how like great the character is as a whole.
Yeah, like I mean, I would say there's like so much like characterization for each of them, like even like super early on. And like I'm super excited to see like later will we kind of have moments that are similar-ish to this, because like I would say like, you know, some of the downtime in Land of Waves and some of the downtime during like the Forest of Death is very much has some of these interactions.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I mean, yeah, I'm so excited to get to the Land of Waves stuff where we're getting the tree climbing stuff where like Sakura's actually, because like Sakura's kind of been like she really has done nothing, right? All she's done is pass out in the bell test.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's,
and so I'm excited
to
see like
herself.
We see what she's good at. And then we get to see, you know, her kind of be herself more when, you know, she explains what's going on, or you know, just all of that is like really good.
Yeah, like and I'm also like looking forward to Forest of Death because there's just like it's definitely the part where I think that like Sakura is just being like outright so sweet to Naruto and just like so like she's really good there. Nobody ever talks about it. But I just remember reading that and I was like so into their interactions there. Like Team Sevens in general, and the Force of Death. Yeah, and I like that like Sasuke, you know, his likes are he doesn't have anything he particularly likes.
Yeah,
just like, you know,
there's a lot of things I dislike and nothing I like. It's like, all right, dude, come on. I love it. Actually, it's actually just so good. And then the bell test itself, once it starts, is really good. I like that, you know, you get a sense of what Naruto kind of is, right? Where he is, you know, using his shadow clones, but he even doesn't do, you know, the thing where even though like, you know, he does immediately challenge Kakashi to a fight, even after like once Kakashi says start, right? He doesn't just immediately call out his shadow clones and go from there, right? He runs at him, gets sent into the water, and then while he's in the water, that's when he uses his shadow clones. So he comes out of the water, does something, and then has them with him. Like he's already trying to kind of be tricky and force like Kakashi to keep up with him. Which is like really nice.
I do like a lot that like Naruto, you know, even though there's no point in the series where he decides to ever be like sneaky or sneak around and things, he still always does have this kind of like, you know, the art of deception. Like he does think of these crazy things that nobody would think of, even though he is someone who always takes things up head on.
Right, he's not like a Luffy where he just or like a Goku, right? Which like I think people act like he is, but he's not a Luffy or a Goku where he's just running full force and trying to just solve everything by like his natural strength, right? Like Naruto's trying out strategies and trying to do things that are kind of different, or, you know, using his abilities to, in some ways, you know, maybe not necessarily outsmarts the best word, but like, you know, out tactics him or out strategize him in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would just say that's like he's always trying to have this surprise kind of thing that people aren't, you know, ever gonna like aren't really expecting. Yeah. I also really, and I think it's kind of interesting how Kakashi says in the episode, I think he says in episode 4 instead of 5, that like the academy was just to select people with the Genin potential, but they aren't actually full-fledged shinobi yet. Like, it isn't, they aren't automatically just going to be able to go out into the world and start going on these missions and start being able to just like kill people and stuff.
Right, yeah, the academy is just to make sure that you could do it, but then you have to be paired with a high-level ninja who can, like, actually test and make sure. And what's interesting is, like, you don't have a for sure idea, but I would also imagine, especially knowing Kakashi, knowing what's most important to him, is that, like, what Kakashi's actually testing is, the thing that he cares most about, right? Which is that the people he's going to be with in the fields care about their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why that's like his test, because I would imagine other people have different tests, and I think it's like super pog.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say his, like, I would assume his test is like very, like, way more specific, and since he's looking for teamwork, and obviously that's because of Obito, and like everything he went through with Obito, and knowing that him, Obito, and Rin weren't really ready, and I would imagine he almost feels like he wished he learned this. He definitely wishes he learned this when he was starting out, and
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of would have been okay with just being like held back and stuff just because he didn't know this, because it's just like so overly important. Not overly important. I mean, it's so important.
I agree. I think it's really good, and I just like watching the Bell test play out and seeing not only what like how Kakashi's kind of testing different things against all of them, right? Like he's doing mainly just taijutsu against Naruto, and then he just completely eliminates Sakura with genjutsu, which I also thought was interesting because when like you have like in the Chunin exams, right, like in the finals when everyone gets put under a genjutsu and falls asleep, Sakura is like one of the only Genin who notices it and stops it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I think it's interesting that she gets completely annihilated by that now, but then becomes someone who kind of just can't even get really stopped by genjutsu because she, grows in that way. And then with Sasuke, it's more of a ninjutsu battle. I thought like it was cool that he used the 3 against him, but then also it's like if the 3 of them had been working together, like how would it have turned out?
Mm-hmm.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like how Kakashi explains the test being designed. Like, yeah, it kind of like reasonably is designed in a way where you think it's kind of like supposed to be all like everyone for themselves, and they're all trying to since there's only 2 bells, they're all trying to get them, and reasonably they can't all just team up because there's only 2 of them. Yeah, and like I think it's like super good in that sense, just because the situation that Kakashi was in back when he was like with Obito and stuff is kind of a situation that made him think that they should just split up, but that that obviously wasn't the case. But like since he's testing that here, he would kind of have this similar thing in his tests to make them consider that the best option when it's not.
Yeah, I don't even like it. I really like the Bell test. I think it's really well done, and I love the way it plays out eventually. But
I also really like the like when Kakashi's like explaining what each of them did wrong. I really like that, like Naruto and like both Naruto and Sasuke's thing that they were doing wrong is basically like the most similar to each other. Like just this general like going solo, and especially like kind of interesting in the sense that they would do that, since like their whole like a lot of their thing right now is that they they really hate being alone,
mm-hmm.
But here they are on the field doing exactly that.
Right, and it's almost because it's like it's what they're used to, right? Like they don't even know how to work with each other. So Sasuke just sees him as hindrances, even though, like we mentioned, he does see merit and see things in Naruto and thinks Naruto's good. He sees it as a hindrance because he's only ever at this point really try to do anything alone, you know, because when he was a kid, it was to try to get Itachi and his dad's approval, and then he was alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was good. I also love how like Naruto tries to like cheat the test, right, and eat because he thinks of the line Kakashi said of you know, you have to be able to see through deception, which was what Kakashi ultimately wanted them to do. Just Naruto did it in the wrong way, which I thought was funny. That like Naruto was like almost on the right track, but was wrong about it. Was like really sick.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about like Kakashi, how he is in general right now? 'Cause I really like, yeah, I really like Kakashi just generally like having this really like dumb kind of attitude, I guess. Like, you know, his just like general like aloof nature and kind of just like you know, like he gets hit by the eraser when he's coming in, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, I thought it was really good. I really like seeing a Kakashi like interact with these three.
What I also like is that like it takes a while for Naruto to really, like, as a series, to really get into Kakashi as a person, right? Like it takes a while for you to see who Kakashi truly is, because even in the 2 episodes, we see 3 different versions of Kakashi, right? We see the kind of the dumb, silly Kakashi who gets hit by the eraser and says that, you know, he isn't going to tell them anything about himself and asks him like silly questions. Then we see the Kakashi who is really hard on him and it keeps calling him names and telling him they don't have what it takes to be ninja. And then at the end, when he tells them they pass, you get like kind of a whole third Kakashi who's, you know, more willing to open up a little bit and tell them, you know, that like, you know, their missions start tomorrow. And that Kakashi even kind of bleeds through with the, like he's playing all these different things and really is being very deceptive about who he is because he's so closed off to people. But then, you know, that even ties in with, you know, him originally hating Team 7. And then, you know, by the end, he loves them as like this whole, you know, he opens up to them as well and becomes more of himself. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like Kakashi, in some sense, since he probably like since he failed all the people who have ever almost been on his like as his team, he probably like I would probably say that he in a sense has just kind of been like similarly kind of alone, especially when he brings up that like all of his like so many of his comrades died and are on the name, like they're on that monument, like their names are there.
Well, that's
so it kind of makes sense why he's like so happy kind of sort of about them passing and like, you know, really into it. Go ahead.
That's probably why he had failed so many groups before, right? Was because he wanted to be alone because he didn't want to go through that pain again, right? And it was only when he really saw that Team 7 were willing to disregard the rules and put, you know, and stand as one and put Naruto before, you know, what they were told, that he probably then was like, okay, you know, I'll do it with these guys. Because we even see like Kakashi had been looking a lot into them, right? Like he knew about Sasuke's backstory, knew what Sasuke was going to want to do. He goes to Naruto's place with the third and really gets an idea of how Naruto lives, and that's when they see that the milk is expired. Like Kakashi was making sure almost from the beginning that he'd be able to, you know, work with them and get an idea of who they are, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's probably also like part of why Kakashi like way later on says that, you know, Sasuke's similar to him. Like, you know, they both like kind of have these similarities that he's noticed, and that's a lot of why he specifically knows he can train Sasuke. I also just really like that, like, you know, Sasuke, you know, he tries feeding Naruto the lunch first, like of all people.
And then I love how Sakura still isn't, you know, honest about why she's doing it, But then on top of that, like on top of Sakura not being honest, Sasuke then accepts that Sakura is the one who wants to do it and would probably feel better about doing it, so he lets her do it anyways. Which is really good.
Yeah, I think that like, yeah, I mean, and I really like the like again like I feel like Sasuke is very much like more of a kind of a kid than like he lets on, and like and just like the way he's like breaking the rules and like so, like Kakashi's not around so it's fine, like he just kind of feels like a normal kid there, I would say. Yeah, I really like everyone right now a lot.
I agree. I'm really excited to get to Land of Waves, and then after that to the Chunin exams, and really see it. Not only see like it continue and get to stuff that I like more, but also like I'm excited, especially with Chunin exams, to see what's added and how that makes it feel different. Because I mean I think right now there has been like a difference, and we talked about how I think it's been a little bit more comedy focused so far and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see how other things are changed or feel different as we go. So
yeah, even now I would say that the staff of Naruto clearly get what the series is going for, and
definitely
are able to add these things that seem natural, at least within the canon material.
And even on top of that, I mean, I wanted to ask you what you think of the OP and the ED, because I think the OP has like a great fucking shot at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that that Sasuke's reaching out his hand to Naruto, and like Kakashi and Sakura are there watching.
Yeah, and like they fist bump before he picks him up. Like the fact that the OP ends on a Naruto Sasuke fist bump is like so great. Even if I don't like the OP as a whole that much, and I'm not a big fan of the song.
Hateful.
If I'm being completely honest, I don't hate the ED. I think the ED is fine. I am not a big fan of this first OP. But it's okay because you immediately get to good OPs after.
Okay. You're very
How do you
hateful,
feel about
actually.
him?
I mean, I really like the opening. And I really like the ending. Like the ending for a long time hasn't been something I care about. But like now it's something that I really like. So I mean, with the ending specifically, it's taken me like so long to recognize that it's like super good. I think you'll agree with me on the ending as well one day. What?
I didn't say I don't like it. I do.
I mean,
like
you said you like it, but you don't. I mean, it just seems like you just yeah, I like it. It doesn't seem like you think it's like super good. It is really good.
I don't think it's super good. We'll revisit when we talk about Land of Waves, and maybe I'll feel differently, right? I've only seen it 5 times, but I will say, and I know it's because one of the Cartoon Network version, like English OPs, used it for like a majority of the show. But the shot of like when it's like the 3 shuriken and that really big guy's log, and he picks it up and gets like fucked up by Naruto's shadow clones. You know what I'm talking about? That part's like ingrained in my head for Naruto openings, and it has to have been in one of the English openings. Because like I remember it so fucking like, yeah, it's the beginning of the first English opening. I'm looking at it right now. Funny. Oh, it's in it twice here. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but yeah, I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I don't have any more to say about these episodes.
I mean, I guess like to comment on like the English opening, I think it's kind of interesting how they like changed it, because they clearly like made it more of an action kind of thing. Like I feel like I definitely think they changed the vibe of it for sure. And they kind of took elements from the first opening that they didn't use, and with the second and combined it with like the second opening that they did use, which I guess was interesting. But yeah, these episodes were really good. I like them a lot. I definitely think most of the important things that are super focused on are within these episodes to some extent. The only thing I would say that you really can't know the scope of is just kind of like you can't see that how torn up by war the world is. Like, you can't really see that right now. And I guess generally you wouldn't really think of like they kind of had to find peace eventually. Like, even now, I think it's just like, you know, Naruto having it already has other people who have been lonely and know what it's like to feel that loneliness, being able to connect with each other and kind of fill this like hole in each other's heart.
Right, and you also already have two characters, and like, you know, if you want to like really get into it, you already have two characters who have the main goal of becoming Hokage, and both of them, a large part of their character is wanting to be acknowledged. So if you just look at it like that, it's like, okay, well, Naruto's main goal is to become Hokage, which also comes with being acknowledged by everyone. So how is he being acknowledged by everyone, right? And you just look at it like that. It's really good and does a really good job.
And it is also kind of, you know, interesting, like keeping in mind that Sasuke eventually says that he wants to become Hokage. Especially because you can just kind of see even now that like Sasuke wants these similar things in Naruto, even though he's like kind of not recognizing that, and kind of at the current moment more so focusing on getting back at his brother. Like, you know, obviously when he reconciles that, it kind of makes sense why he ends up kind of going back to this, like kind of thinking of like Hokage the way he does, and why Naruto and Sasuke both have that goal at the end and face off. But I really like these episodes. I'm excited to watch more. I'm probably gonna watch more soon.
Yeah, I honestly am probably gonna take a nap and then wake up and watch more. So
I think I'm definitely going to try and also like generally like at least like leave in the description of this up to where we're gonna watch.
Yeah, that's a smart idea.
Especially, you know, I do want to like have that ready for like the filler arcs, especially.
Right.
Especially like the war shit, like the war when it's like it's really hard to
splitting up the war is going to be a pain.
Yeah, especially because
of
like
figure out how to do that.
Like, you know, like the war does this thing where it's like it has some canon material, then these 2 episodes of filler, and then some canon material, and then like its distribution of the filler is really hard to like split up evenly, and kind of like I feel like there's going to be situations where we're covering part of filler in an episode but also like canon at the same time. It's going to be like really weird. I don't really know how that's going to work.
Yeah, we'll figure it out when we get there. If you have ideas or suggestions for how to do that, please put it in the comments, because that will help us, I think, a lot. But
yeah. Also, if you have a suggestion for the name of the podcast.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier.
Yeah, we don't have a name for it. So if you want to, you know, help us like you did with the Speed Club, if you want to suggest some names, remember, it doesn't have to be like have like the blank club in it, right? It can kind of just be, you know, whatever you think that you think would be a good name for it. So let us know, and we'll keep them in mind. All right. With that, do you have any more to say?
Nope.
All right. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see y'all later.